You're in this
I'll probably
podcast.
be in all of them.
You're in
and
the
I'll be
first
that
podcast,
guy.
Mark.
Yeah,
This is
and
the
then people
podcast.
are gonna say, "Where's that Mark guy? I hated him. I'm
He
glad
was
he's
my
not
favorite
returning."
character in the
No,
He
no
was
one's
my
gonna say
favorite
that.
guy.
He was my favorite guy.
No one's gonna say that.
I
He
just
only
did.
talked about the Switch and Nintendo.
Heck
Why does
yeah.
nobody else talk about Nintendo on this podcast?
Nintendo is my favorite franchise.
And then there's gonna be me. It's gonna be like, there's that guy that always says the N-word and it gets edited out.
There's that guy that always talks about lollies for 2 seconds
Oh,
before they
no.
shut him down.
Oh man! Hello, welcome to the Insert Game Here podcast. This podcast is just a group of friends talking about games, gaming experiences, and gaming fantasies. Ooh,
Emphasis on fantasy.
fantasy.
Sexy.
Hentai games.
That's Garrett's.
Garrett's expertise.
So,
For our first episode, we're gonna kick things off by talking about the first game we remember playing, or the game that got us into gaming.
Alright, okay, so Bibby, you already kind of know mine because I told you when we were doing D&D
That's true.
last week. But this goes to show how terrible my parents are. Was Mortal Kombat. So, I was a toddler.
But oh no,
I was a toddler.
he was like in diapers.
I
playing Mortal
started-
Kombat.
I started my games playing Mortal Kombat on an SNES.
Was that at the point where they like had the actual people? playing
Yeah, that was
it?
when they had the actual people
Yeah,
where they
so,
had
like,
to videotape them or whatever,
Ripped
doing the
guy's
dumb fucking
spine
shit.
out, yeah, I'm pretty sure they really showed
what-
the guy's spine.
That was when they had the animalities, the babyalities, the fatalities.
All
But
your
yeah,
favorites.
no, that was what got me. I wouldn't say that got me into gaming, but that was the first game that I definitely.
okay, well, the first system that I've got was also an SNES, and it was a hand-me-down.
Hell yeah!
That's what you did.
And one of the first games that got me into gaming was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah!
I also had Mortal Kombat. I got to the boss fight with the guy with 4 arms, and I couldn't beat him.
Goro.
Yeah.
That was
Goro.
fucking insane.
Dude,
And then I also played Super Mario World too. That was my first Mario game, and I was like,
Super
oh,
Mario
this is
World.
legit.
or Super Mario World 2. What are you talking
Oh,
about?
no, it was the one. It's the one with Yoshi on the front.
Dude, they all have Yoshi
What's that
on
one?
the front. Now for Mark, gonna talk about the game that got him into gaming.
Oh yeah.
Mortal
Well, it's gonna be.
Kombat.
No, actually, it's quite the contrast. My first console was a Sega Genesis,
Mm.
Ugh.
Ooh.
and the
Favorite
first game I remember playing is Sonic 2.
Sonic 2.
Really?
Yeah.
With Tails?
Yeah.
And Knuckles?
Not to be confused with the porn.
What?
Just don't.
But yeah, it was my dad's system when he was a kid, or at some point in his life.
When he was a young adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
When
did
he
that
could
come
still
out?
bend down without hurting himself.
Well, I guess that leaves me for this question. I mean,
And that's all the time we have
that's all
for
the
today,
time.
folks.
And well, it looks like we're out of time. I'd say the first game that like got me into gaming was probably the port of Donkey Kong Country onto the Game Boy Advance.
Of course it is.
Dude, remember the good old days of Walmart where they had like the like handhelds kind of like sticking out on those like arm things, and you could play the games.
I remember
Mhm.
playing in Sears.
See, like Sears did that.
Rest in peace.
Rest in peace, yeah.
Rest in peace, Sears, and every other
Father,
store.
Son, Holy Spirit, Roman and Patsy.
Oh,
I don't know. You guys talked about both, I guess, kind of.
Yeah.
Your first game that you remember playing and the game that got you into it. I mean, Mortal Kombat really didn't get me into gaming.
Got you into
I
other
kinda-
things.
I really fucking hated that game, honestly, because it was just so fucking annoying.
Yeah, and it was also difficult.
Yeah, especially for a 4-year-old. Uppercut, that was it. Like, freeze, uppercut.
Uppercut.
Yeah,
That's why you can
actually,
never beat Goro.
because my game was a hand-me-down, I didn't have the manual, so I didn't know how to do the freeze, so it was only uppercut.
Like, but I'd say the game that really got me into gaming would have to be on the PlayStation 1, and that would be Digimon World 2.
Oh man.
Nice.
Yeah, I know, none of you guys are real Digimon fans. Maybe Garrett.
No.
There's like
No, really?
there's like
Mm-mm.
there's like thousands of Digimon.
Yeah.
Well, I won't go that far.
How many Digimon are there? Someone look that up. I'm gonna look that up right now. There are only 807 Pokemon currently.
Get on point, Pokemon.
That's
Okay,
not an-
Digimon
well,
is clearly
that's-
the better.
That's not including Gen 8, so that'll probably
Yeah,
go up
you know,
somewhere
add
in
3
between
more.
60 and
So
100.
it'll go from 807 to 8. It'll go to
Yeah.
807 to like 808,
810.
810.
Add those 3 starters. Those are the
Three
only new
stars,
ones.
only
But no, Digimon World 2 is the one that got me really into gaming, and I think that also got me into my love of like RPGs and kind of like dungeon things. Because Digimon World 2 is pretty much just this game where you had a Digibeetle, which was just a vehicle you took into these dungeons, which were just the levels. You'd put a lot of time into that fucking game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still never beat it though. Never
Never
beat
beat-
that fucking game.
Speaking of that,
Unless
like
it takes too long.
I hate to talk about Donkey Kong Country again, but I'm going
No,
to
you
talk about Donkey Kong
No,
Country.
you don't.
No, I had so much trouble with some of the levels because that was hard. That was a hard game to play. I wasn't trying to beat the game, which was
Back
the
when we
objective.
still had fun.
Back when you still had fun playing video games, so I would just replay levels that I liked or had fun with, and I would get to a hard level and I would like put the game away and just like never touch that level again. I'm like, oh man, there's like actually stuff beyond this hard level. I thought this was just like it. It probably took me like 6 years to beat Donkey Kong Country just because I didn't try to beat it. And I'm on the quest to collect all 3 Donkey Kong Country games on the Game Boy Advance. They all exist. I have 1 and 2. I'm looking for 3. I'm like Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet. Do you guys remember like the first game you ever played that you actually knew what you were doing? Like you actually understood like, oh, there's like an objective here that I'm trying to like accomplish. I remember the first game that I kind of like figured out that there was like a true objective to it all was like Legend of Zelda Phantom Hourglass on the Nintendo DS. That's another game that I couldn't figure out for a long time because they incorporated a lot of elements to it that were stupid. One of the temples, you had to get into it by blowing out candles out in front of the temple. So you had to actually physically blow into the microphone while standing next to those candles. If
Yeah.
you didn't do it, like there was like one sign on the island that told you how to do it, and that was it. Like if you didn't find that sign, you were basically lost.
And don't forget about the one time in the temple where you have to draw the hourglass on the touch screen and then close your system and then reopen it to
Dude,
put it on the top
I've
screen.
definitely told you guys this story before, but that particular part of that game, I was playing that part like in the morning before school. I had to get on the bus, so I just closed my system. And it just when I got back home, I opened it up and like the little like the little Zelda jingle played.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, that's how you did it.
I wish I remembered this much about my childhood.
Remember?
Like,
Alright.
fuck. That's very detailed, Bibby. I can't tell you a detailed story really about me gaming as a child.
Well, it's not about gaming as a child. It's like you kind of like where things kind of clicked, you know? You remember when things clicked, like a certain game you like played, and you're like, oh.
Sesame Street Elmo's Letter Adventure.
So you went from Mortal Kombat to
Elmo.
Elmo's Letter Adventure.
I told you my parents were fucked up, okay? Yeah, I just strangled fucking everybody with Snuffleupagus. He was my favorite character.
I'm a Snuffleupagus man.
His finisher move is where he took his trunk, shoved it up your ass, and ripped your spinal cord out that way. Yeah. I mean, Digimon got me into like RPG stuff, but so did Final Fantasy. It was kind of around the same time that I had both of those. I was just really into Digimon
Yeah.
at the time because Final Fantasy wasn't like huge
Mhm.
around like where we grew up. I mean, not many people, like none of you guys played Final Fantasy when we were growing up.
No.
Nope.
But like
Only my brother and I would play Final Fantasy that I knew of in our school.
I don't know. Like, I don't really remember a time where I just kind of understood what I was doing. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can't really add anything right now.
He still doesn't understand what he's doing.
He still doesn't know how to play video games. It's gonna click.
I've played the new
He's
Smash.
always learning.
Still button smashing.
I pick up the controller and I win. It just, I don't know. I don't get it.
But like when you played Sonic 2, did you understand that you were progressing through levels, or was it just like I'm playing this to like watch the pretty colors fly past?
I mean, no, I knew I was like going through levels. I wasn't very good at it back in the day. My favorite thing to do was I used to have the menu codes memorized.
Oh no. Oh.
So I would
Yep.
No.
You see, kids,
Back in our day.
back in the day, debugging games wasn't that easy. So developers put in little secret menus for development purposes, so they could display debug information. And like players found out these codes because they were typically like meaningful numbers, like someone's birthday or release date, something like that.
Yeah.
And it would unlock debug menus, like level selectors. It would, in the case of Sonic, there was one that let you be supersonic. You could activate debug mode, which would let you turn into any item that was loaded into a level. And that was so much fun to play with.
Man, level codes reminds me of the good old days where save games weren't entirely like, not every developer knew how to do a save game.
Yeah,
You have to type in the level code and like have it written down. If you didn't remember though, then you just lost all your progress. Or if you lost the paper you wrote it down on. I had codes written down for Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius on the Game Boy Advance. And then I lost them one day and I was torn. I'm like, how could they do this? I mean, you got to fight Carl Weezer as like a giant. I'll put in the footage here. Hopefully someone has a recording of that boss fight, because that boss fight still haunts my dreams. So Garrett.
Passwords.
Garrett, do you know how to play video games?
Yeah. Because, well, whenever I had the SNES, I would go over to my cousin's house, because that's where I got my hand-me-downs from. And she had a PS2. And I actually played Kingdom Hearts a lot when I was younger.
Yeah.
And then I got stuck on the one Riku battle, and
Which one?
The one after he transforms, like in Hollow Bastion.
Okay.
Oh.
And
See, Garrett, I got you.
Yeah. And then like as a kid, I was like, oh man, I do not know how to do this. I've tried this like so many times, so I took a break from it. About like. It might have been like 1.5 years, and then I came back to it, and then I was able to like overcome him, and I was like, wow, this is actually like really good. And then I started to like get a handle on like all the different things that were implemented into the game.
Everyone gets 30 seconds to describe this, because I feel like it shouldn't take more than 30 seconds. And if you go, just shoot me with like a specific memory of a game that you look back at it now and you're like, I thought this game looked better, but it actually didn't. So I'll start. I got 30 seconds. I remember playing Smash Bros. Melee at one of our friend's house that no one would know if I said it on the podcast, so I'm not even gonna bother.
Well, you should, because you might be on the podcast.
Well, it was Joe's house. We were playing Smash Bros. Melee, and I look back at Melee today, and I'm just like, this game still plays average, but like, looks like trash. Okay, that's my 30 seconds. So, Michael, whenever you're ready, I will start the clock.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Whenever you start talking.
I mean, I'm gonna have to go with.
There you go.
Legend of Dragoon.
Okay.
I mean, it was kind of like a Final Fantasy game, but no, they had really neat graphics and one of kinds of like a unique fighting style and everything like that with the fighting system. But damn, it's terrible now.
Yeah.
compared to what they have now. It's awful.
Man,
Okay.
like a champ. Alright, who's next? Garrett, go.
I would say good old Spyro.
Oh god.
Yeah. I thought Spyro's graphics were like really good. And I've also played Melee, but I've played Spyro more. Because I've only played Melee whenever I went over to someone else's house that actually had a GameCube.
That's true.
So,
John.
yeah. And then I saw the new remake of Spyro, and I'm like, whoa, this isn't what I remembered.
Yeah, I'll bring up an interesting thing about that. Alright, there's your 30 seconds. Mark, whenever you're ready.
Okay, I can't really think of anything specific, but like maybe like a lot of games from the GameCube era.
Yeah, I agree with
Like I don't know, like even for some reason I can't bring myself to say anything N64 because like they don't exactly look better than I remember. They look the same. But like GameCube games, like they're always too shiny when they shouldn't be.
that. That's true. Alright,
Like I don't know, not all games, but I feel like my 30 seconds is up.
And Mark went over the 30 seconds, making him tonight's big loser.
That's big loser.
There will probably come a day where we look at these remasters and they don't live up to what we have at that current point. Like remasters, like just the way technology goes,
Reality.
it's always gonna get better. So
Yeah.
like we're gonna have a day where we look back and like, oh man, can you believe Spyro Remastered is getting remastered for the new console? Like that's just the world we live in. That's what's gonna keep happening.
I can be
Kingdom
Spyro.
Hearts.
Anything with like a realistic graphic style is going to have that happen much earlier.
Exactly.
Yep. Anyone watching, let us know what your thoughts are on your gaming experiences and questions we asked.
Yeah, leave any comments. If you wanna ask us anything, we might put it on the show. You never know if there's even any comments on this at all. If anyone even watches this, thank
Please
you.
comment, I might cry.
Please comment. Mark will actually cry. If we get 10 comments on this video, I will post a video of myself crying.